Let's give 1 more minute for folks to come in and then we'll start. Julian, I think we can start. You have the slide control.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is the past Computation Element working group session, live from Brisbane. So hope you're enjoying the place. Sorry I couldn't travel. The not well. So you should all be aware of the not well. You should see them at each session when you subscribe and register to the IETF. So remember that everything that is considered a contribution to the ETF is subject to IPR policy. So make sure you are aware of the policy and make sure that you and or your company are following the associated processes in case of intellectual property related to what we discuss. Really well, yeah. There is usual now code of conduct in the IETF as well. So make sure that everyone is fine around you, especially if you suspect an harassment situation somewhere in your neighborhood. There are some people in the IETF who are there to help you address that kind of situation. So you may contact Ombuds team to address that, or talk to your chairs if you want someone to bridge or tunnel any situation related to harassment you may suspect. So as usual, the session is recorded. We are also connected from remote, like myself. So make sure that you follow the process. If you're in the room, to make sure you have the light app connected to sign the virtual view sheet. To join the queue, you also have a button there, or you may use the full app on your laptop if you prefer. Remotely, it's similar. There is the virtual queue that you may join using the associated button and wait for one of us, probably Drav, to give you the floor before starting to speak. Otherwise, it could be easily become a mess. So we have Andrew taking care of the minutes, but if you feel like give him a hand, you have the link here to join the Etherpad for the working group meeting online. Make sure you follow the process here. And we also have a chat as any other IETF session this week. So you may connect there and use Medical to tunnel there if you want to. Beyond the session, make sure that you are actively using the mailing list. We really like it and we need it to judge consensus when you have key steps around about documents like working group adoption, working group last call. So make sure you share your comments and reviews using the mailing list. To progress document, it's good to use the mailing list as well. Most of the work we do are working group work, so the more visible it is, the better, and the more you may gather some contribution, and the more the chair will be able to judge the consensus on any issue that we may have to address, if applicable. So the agenda, I guess no one has anything to bash from the agenda. Reasonable length this time. Nothing particular there. The usual segment routing specific session. So working group status. So we have one new RFC that has been published since the previous IETF, which is the stateful GMPLS. We have two IDs in the RC editor queue that are pending some references. So the binding label is waiting for the IPv6 extension, which is with the IESG. So the, the situation may resolve in the near future. On the update on the TLS extension for PCEP-S, also is waiting for another document which is beyond the PCE working group, but the document passed last call. So also it's in the progress of publication. So the situation will eventually resolve. We have also two other documents that are with the IG, so the aforementioned IPv6 segment routing extension in PCEP and native ID, native IP extension with PCEP as well. We have several documents which have requested some early allocation of code points. Some were recently renewed. So as usual, remember, if you have an implementation in progress and feel that it may be tricky to change the code point after the early testing session or the first interrupt tests, it's always better to request early allocation before implementing and doing interrupt testing. So there is a reasonable process to achieve it. So please contact the chair if you feel that your document may require some early code points. Note that there is the multipass which will expire in May, so it will be good to resolve that one in the near future. Other items, so you should be aware that we updated the charter quite recently. We don't have any new errata, and there is a pending response to the ITUT SD15. For us, it's mainly an update of the document and work item that may be relevant to their scope of interest. So we will gather with other working group chair to provide an update of the document in progress and make sure that it's properly sent to the ITUT. Status of the working group ID. So do you want to take back the floor, Graf, here?
Yes. Yes, I think I have it. Let me test. Yes. So I will quickly go over the status of all the working group IDs and open issues and next step. The first one that we want to talk about is the PCEP Yang. This is in the post working group last call stage. We recently did an update, and the pending item is the Shepherd review. And Julian has confirmed that he'll be sending the Shepherd review very, very soon. And then we will be able to push this out to the ISG. The second one, on which I'm the shepherd, which is the segment routing SR policy candidate path. The authors are making good progress. They have responded to my comments. I have not had time to check that. So after the IETF, I'll quickly check, provide my Shepherd report, and then we will be able to send this to ISG as well. So both of them are making, hopefully, will make good progress soon. The documents which are nearing working group last call, and thus I wanted to call the attention of the group. We have PCE optional, which is on the agenda. So let's skip that. Same with sync, which is also on the agenda. So let's not talk about that. But the other two, which the authors have claimed that it's near working group last call in the past, but right now are in the expired state. So please, that doesn't look good. So please refresh your documents and make sure that they are up to date, and then we will quickly be able to last call them. So a request to authors of both the documents to please refresh your documents. And in one of the documents, the PSEP color, one ask was add the implementation status section. So please add that, and then we will be able to progress your documents out of our queue soon. These are documents also which are nearing working group last call, and we are just doing it in the order that we maintain in our wiki. Uh, this is a check and a reminder to the group. This is the status that we have and what we maintain in the wiki. If people disagree and have comments, please reach out to the chairs, use the mailing list. Let's keep the discussion rolling. And let's move the work out as soon as we can. So this is the PCCC segment routing. Looks like everything is ready with this, and there are no open comments. The authors have resolved the comments that they have received in the past. The same is true for the vendor extensions and the SID algorithm. So if anybody has any concerns with these documents, please reach out to the mailing list and make progress. Thank you. Now, the other working group IDs. We briefly talked about multipath during the INA. So, another reminder that when we ask for early allocation, I think pay attention to the timing of asking early allocation. The process is we get, once we apply, we get 1 year, then we get a renewal for the second year, which is an easy enough process. Your ADs can approve them. But if you need further approval, then it needs to go to ISG and you need to explain what's happening. And there's a whole process. So basically, by early allocation, we mean that we have implementations and we are making good progress. Ideally, your document should also be moving out and be ready for working group last call around that timeline. And so let's push forward. And this is already, I think, approved for one more extension. But we need to close and move this document out of the working group by that time. So there's a request to authors to prioritize this. And once it is ready, we will also prioritize this in our queue and get it ready uh, for last call and ITF last call, etc. The other documents which are segment routing related, uh, we haven't seen much update in path segment and bidirectional path. Uh, Hopefully, they are being ready for working group last call. If authors have any updates or any concerns, please let us know. And again, a request to keep these documents moving. These are documents. We have interdomain. This was presented last time. There was comments, so we are hoping that we will get some updates. The authors have told us that the updates are incoming. Let's wait for them. But this document continue to see some progress. We have P2MP policy, which is on the agenda, and the flow spec document that we took out from the earlier RFC because the BGP IDR working group was working on flow spec V2. So this ID still is pending for further progress that we make in IDR. And once that's done, we can push this out from our working group as well. Uh, we have Path MTU, IFET, SRv6 Yang. These are all being maintained, but not much of discussion slash update yet. Looks to be pretty stable. So we hopefully, if people have comments, please send it to the list, and then let's move these documents as well. I just wanted to highlight about the SRv6 Yang. Uh, that the authors have told that once the PCEP Yang moves along, they will also be keeping it aligned and try to move SRv6 Yang as well. But this also has dependency on the work that is happening in Spring Working Group and the Spring Yang model. And there was a recent discussion with them as well. And hopefully, we will be able to make progress. There was a comment from our side, for instance, that the SR policy Yang that they maintain was not just for the device but also for the controller. The initial discussion looks like they will be coming up with an update. It has not happened yet. But once that's done, then the authors of this document should also update their model and make progress. Finally, recently adopted documents. We had two. Circuit style is also on the agenda. Thanks for authors for making quick updates and making good progress. So that's very good. And even the entropy label position, they have handled the comments that they received during the adoption call. So that's good news. Keep that coming. This is our adoption poll queue. If anybody has any reasons for jumping their documents up the queue, reach out to chairs. We are flexible. If there is a need, let us know. But currently, this is the queue that we have in our wiki. Any comments on any of the uh, working group documents, adoption call queue, any concerns? Hearing nothing, let's start with our agenda. Thanks, everyone. And the first speaker is Cheng.
Hello everyone, Cheng Li from Huawei. So I will have two presentations today. The first one is about a very simple extension. Oh, here is another screen. Yeah. About the extension for stateful PCE to allow optional processing to PCE communication protocol PCP object. Yep. So the basic information is about what we have done in this draft. As you know that we have defined the P flag and the I flag in the RFC 5440, which is about the stateless PCEP, right? But in the stateful PCEP extension, which is defined by RFC 8231, we say that the P flag and the I flag are ignored in processing when receiving the message. So in this draft, we clarify how to use or how to process these two flags for further features or further usage. So we define some new functions regarding this. So as you can see that we introduce some extension which includes, like for example, a new R flag, relax flag, to indicate that we do support this kind of capability in stateful PCE. Yep. And then with this kind of functionality, so we can handle the P flag and I flag in the stateful PCE messages, such as PC report and PC update and PC initiate. Yep. So that is the main thing of this draft. Yep. And the current state of the draft is that luckily we have passed the working group last goal of the draft already. Yep. And all the comments, I think we have addressed all the comments received. Yep. So thank you all for the comments. And then yes, that's it. Nothing new. Yep. So let me repeat again the changes during the I'll say during the after the last previous IETF meeting. Yep. So first of all, we moved some text regarding the delegation how say section to the PC report messages, because that is highly related to the PC report message, right? So we also changed the must to should to make it consistent with the delegation processing. So that is main change. Yep. Another change is about the update of the default behavior, right? There's nothing special here. It's just some editorial update. Yes. And the third one is, yeah, we summarize some update here. So first of all, we make some editorial changes, and we add some text, and we also make some modifications, such as we change the word specify to, no, we changed the word from clarify to specify. Yes, exactly. And then we also received the comments. Well, it's really hard to view the screen from here. Yeah, that's better. So we also received a comment from Peng Shaofu. Yep, he also suggests some text to explain more, but actually we think that may be not needed, so we didn't accept this comment. But still, we still thanks Peng Shaofu for your comment. Yep, and we were thinking about, do we need to introduce some, like, backward compatibility text, or is this enough? So if you have any comments regarding this, you're welcome to stand on in line or share your thoughts to the mailing list. That would be perfect. Yep. And right now, we think the draft is ready to the next step. So we're going to ship the draft to the IESG station. Yep. That's all for this draft. So comments or question?
Especially folks whose text the authors have not accepted and modified. If this is your chance to put your point across, uh, and especially I think the authors would need guidance on this last point, where I think it was Samuel who suggested that we should have a backward compatibility section, and I suggested this text to be added instead. So please review that, respond on the mailing list if this text is enough, or do we need to expand more on this. So, just to summarize, if this was not clear, basically, the issue can be said in this way that RFC 540 said that in a common object header, you have two flags P and I. RFC 8231 said that those flags for new objects are ignored. It never said anything to what happens to the existing objects.
Yes.
So if it would have said for all objects, the things would have been very clear. So we have some undefined behavior for what happens with existing objects in stateful messages. We, based on a quick check with most of the implementers, they all ignore them. So we know that in real implementation, at least existing implementation, we may not have any dire effect. But what's the right thing to do in our document right now? It basically says to safely use this feature, you must upgrade, add the R flag. Both parties should set the R flag before you want to make sure that these two flags can be used. So please feedback if this text is okay or if you want to expand on it, and let's make progress. Any comments from anyone? Especially Samuel, since you provided the comments, if you have any further thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah, Samuel, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to confirm that I'm fine with the change which you proposed in the mail thread. So yeah, I'm aligned with it, and basically as I described in the mail thread, it's better to keep it safe, even if we don't know what the current implementations are doing. As you mentioned, most of them will probably ignore those PNI flags anyway, but it's better to be safe.
Yeah, thanks.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much. By the way, thank you for all your support in the working group last call. Yep. So the second topic is about the interstateful PCE communication procedures. So to me, I think this extension is quite basic and important. Yep. So next. So let me repeat it again, what we have done in this draft. So first of all, this draft has been presented at the previous IETF meeting, and then we come here again. So in the draft, we describe the need and the mechanism of how to synchronize the information regarding the RSP between PCEs. So basically with this function, you can have some like backup PCE, something like that, hot standby PCE, something like that, right? So in the draft, we provide some additional resilience in case of session failure, right? Also solve the split brand and computation loose issues. Yeah, we do introduce some protocol extension to address this kind of risks. Yep. And with the functions, you can deploy multiple PCE in the same time, such as primary and secondary PCEs, right? So yeah, you can also do some like hierarchical PCEs deployment. Yep. And I don't think we need to describe the right sign. Yep. And the recent change is that so first of all, I have to thank the comments from Andrew Stone, especially like we still have one single like comment reserve left to be addressed till now. So thank you for your comments. It's really helpful. And then the second one is about we add a clarification of computation loop to expand what is computation loops. And actually, we do have some protocol extension to address this thread. Yep. If you read the draft, you will see that. And then, yeah, thanks for the comments. Corrected the name of the speaker entity ID TLV. That is quite simple, but we make it wrong, right? And then, yes, the LSP DB version number, and then, okay, it's too detailed here, so I won't go into the details. Yep. So right now we still have some open issues. First of all, in this draft, we state that, first of all, we have no way or no mechanism right now in the draft to carry the information in the open message from this PC to that PC. So we may need to discuss something like regarding this topic. Like, do you think we should synchronize the information of open message? If yes, how? So that is the remaining issues, and that is raised by Andrew Stone. So thank you for the comments. Yep, and nothing new, right? I would say, yeah. Let's finish the discussion and then go to next page.
Yep. I think this is the open issue that we should resolve.
Yes.
Just to summarize this in simple ways, PCC create a session to PCE. Initially, we send open message. Open has a lot of information, including capability. Sometimes even MSD information is included. So we allow a lot of information from PCC to send to PCE during initial open message exchange. Now, when that PCE creates a session to another PCE and it's delegating an LSP that it received from the PCC initially, that information we don't carry it to other PCs. And this loss of information could have that some PCs have different set of information than others, and that might have some computational impact. So this was a very good point that Andrew highlighted, which was missed in the document. The authors claim that we can keep this open for now. We can just say that, yes, we recognize that this information is missing, and this document is not specifying how to do this. And maybe a future document can do that later. So the first question that we have for the working group would be, is this okay? Can we leave this open? And if we cannot leave this open and we should solve this, do you have any suggestion? I was briefly talking to the authors, and this one suggestion that came in, that if you want to do this, uh, would be that once you delegate an LSP, maybe create a TLV and put everything that you receive in open into it. Seems a little hacky because open message usually is exchanged once. Here we will be doing it per LSP. Another option is, do we do one notification? So there are ideas, but none of them is very straightforward.
Yes.
uh, but right now the authors were saying that most of their issues are solved. What they care about was the split brain, the computation loop. That can be solved with the mechanisms that's already there. Can we leave it open? But if the working group disagrees, then we can direct the authors to handle this as well. I already see a queue forming, so please take Andrew, go ahead and take your comment.
Yeah, so thanks for taking the suggestions into the document and updating that. Really appreciate it. And I also feel a little bad that I didn't notice the open message missing earlier, because obviously, doing a last call is kind of a significant thing. So I do recognize that. I think what I'm struggling with is that to do state sync, I mean, properly, to have all the sufficient information, you need that open message contents. And so my concern is it's almost like it's going, the 95% way, and that remaining 5% is being overlooked. And how to do that remaining 5% to carry that open message, I think simply like, that proposal you just mentioned about carrying it inside of the delegation report, I think, yeah, that does feel a little hacky. I do think that there's other ways to do it. Now, whether it has to be done in this document, I think, yeah, as the working group, we kind of have to decide. I think my concern would be if we don't put it in here and we don't include that as part of the solution, what other gaps are we potentially going to miss in terms of how we do the message exchange between the PCEs? And maybe there's other state information that will pop up later. And so I'm still kind of on the fence about it. I do see, how we could go about it, potentially some form of notification message that's carrying from PCE to PCE. And maybe we define not necessarily a new message, but maybe a new object that's carried in one of the existing messages. There will have to be something new here, but exactly what, I don't have a concrete kind of view on yet. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. John?
John Scudder. Yeah, so my kind of silly question is, my assumption is that you would see that this is a pathology that you're describing, not an expected behavior, and that it would happen like maybe if the configuration or something changed on the PCC subsequent to the establishment of the first session, but before the establishment of the second session. Is that kind of generally correct?
Uh, this could happen in a regular case as well, because we have the cases like primary, secondary, and there might be one PC which is primary. So even in a normal case, you do not have a direct session to the primary. So you have a session to one PC. That PC subdelegates to this. So what happens is, if I had a direct session, I would have the open message information. If I have an indirect subdelegation, I
You
don't
won't.
have that
Yeah.
information.
Okay.
So this is not like a scenario which might happen. This is missing.
This is a will, not a might.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I guess my take, and I don't think you should give this any special weight, but I mean, what I think I'm agreeing with Andrew, which is that, having identified this gap, it's a lot better to do a finished spec than a 95% complete spec before closing it.
Yep. Good.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you.
Thanks, Andrew. Anybody who disagrees, and apart from the authors, of course, if there anybody who disagrees, who wants to push the document out right away, this is your chance to say something. Otherwise, that would most likely be our direction to authors to accept this and come up with a proposal and suggest. Andrew, if you have thoughts on what would be the best way to do it, please continue that discussion on the mailing list.
Yes,
and
that would be
let's
perfect. Perfect.
make progress.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to come up with some kind of text or ideas. And then just to kind of recognize also for the working group that the reason why I did say 95% is because the use cases described in the document, right? They can be accomplished with the document as it is.
Yeah.
In the case of, for example, what information is carried in open message, well, depending on the use case, there's obviously, or depending on the feature set, there's different contents carried. In other use cases, the lack of that open message is really breaking, but in the existing use cases defined in the documents, it's okay. So I feel like, yeah, I'd leaning towards it'd be nice to just cover that generic way to carry it to make sure that we don't have to revisit this because some other use case happens to run into it. Yeah, so okay, anyways, I'll definitely follow up with some other text and we can try to figure that out.
Good. Perfect.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for your comments for this document, and let's make progress. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Human, I think it's you next.
Thank you. Okay, so this is for the point-to-multipoint as our policy.
Human, you can also look there.
Oh, thanks, Drew. So first thing is that we have two new authors, and one author is removed. So Rishab and Anuj from Cisco are now working on this draft, and specifically, again, Andrew has been very active on this draft. So a special thanks to him. And I'm guessing you're still awake, Andrew. You got the coffee pot going on in Ottawa, or what? You don't need to respond to that, by the way. If I can go to the next slide.
Uh, that
This one? Okay. All right. So we finally do have a RFC for a spring, and that specifically talks about what segment routing and the replication segment is all about. So yeah, we encourage you to read that one so you get a better understanding of how this PSAP solution should be working. On the PIM side, we do have the SR point-to-multipoint policy, and that's going along. I think it's very close to the last call, so that should become finalized as well. Again, on the PIM side, from OEM perspective, there is a ping draft that is only for MPLS. It's not for the SRv6 in-cap, and that's going well too. I think that's going to be ready for the last call. For the overlay, when it comes to the MVPN, EVPN, there is also the draft that you see here in the IDR, in the BESS, sorry. And that has been implemented by a couple of vendors anyway. So, I mean, that seems to be solid as well. And the PCE here is a draft that we are working on. I guess before I go to the next slide, one comment is that when it comes to the PCE draft, there are multiple vendors that are implementing this. So please, please, please have a look at it. If there are any comments, now is the time. Because as you folks know better than I do, when the code goes into the database, to change that code is going to be very difficult. So, in the next couple of IETF, any comments, any improvements that you folks think is necessary for this draft, bring it on since the implementation is ongoing. After that, it's going to be very hard to change some of these stuff in the draft. Just a reminder, I know I keep representing this slide over and over again, but just to make sure it has sync into everybody that when it comes to the point-to-multipoint SR policy, it's a little bit different than the unicast. In the unicast, the candidate path itself is the LSP, if you will. On the point-to-multipoint policy, the candidate path contains two path instances. And these path instances are actually the point-to-multipoint LSPs. So the reason that we did the two path instances under the candidate path was because of global optimization. Multicast is a little bit different than unicast. When it comes to the global optimization, you want to make sure that you set up a second tree, and then you can go from the first tree to the second tree. I know there was some comments, I think by yourself, Drew, about this. So again, if we want to talk about this, now is the time, but just to ensure that you guys understand that the LSP concept on the point-to-multipoint SR policy is actually under these path instances. And other than that, there is a little bit of separation between the policy itself and the data path. The replication segments, when you configure the policy on the tree, on the head end, on the root, then you need to go and configure the replication segment throughout the network. And really the source routing perspective of point-to-multipoint policy is between the replication segments. So if you have two replication segments, that's where the source routing comes into play. And then you can use unicast, SR policy, or seedless, if you will, to connect those two replication segments throughout a unicast domain with each other. So now with that said, I mean, some eye candy just to make you folks, go read the draft. I'm not going to get too much into the detail here, but one thing that we did change was these path instances. So to make the tree more visible throughout the entire network, Previously, the path instance, like the LSP object, was actually the ID was assigned by the PCC. Now we actually made the ID of the path instance to be assigned by the PCE. So one thing that this brings into the picture is the fact now, since the PCE is configuring the path instance ID throughout the entire network, you can use the same ID on all the replication routers. And that way you can identify your tree uniquely throughout the network with this path instance ID. Where previously you had to go on the PCC, each PCC would have, as you know, create a brand new path instance ID, and it would have become very messy if you wanted to identify that tree end to end throughout the network. So that's one of the changes that we made. The second change that we made is when it comes to deleting the candidate paths and the path instances, we try to make some kind of optimization in there. So if you try to delete the candidate path, you can actually set the path instances as I mentioned previously, you can have multiple path instances. So you can set the path instance ID to be 0, and then you can completely delete the candidate path and all the path instances under the candidate path. Or if you want to do global optimization and you want to delete one of those path instances because the other one just got configured, you can actually put the path instance ID, and you will actually delete that specific path instance throughout the entire network. So the other thing is that we try to not reinvent the wheel. We try to use a lot of unicast concepts here. I think you guys can read through this. The main message here is that some of these TLVs, when it comes to the encoding, is a little bit different for point to multipoint policy compared to unicast. So we're going to use the same TLV numbers because we did not want to reassign the INANA TLV numbers, but the encoding when when the router is talking point to multipoint policy, the encoding for those TLVs are going to be a little bit different. I don't know whether that's acceptable or not, but I mean, talking to the team, that's one thing that we are doing here, just to make sure that we are using the same TLV IDs and the same concept at unicast. So when it comes to the CCI, same idea. We kind of wanted to bring into flex algo and multi-topology concept into the tree seed. So we are using some of the concepts on the unicast with the PCE PSEP extension draft. So we are using that object again in the point to multipoint policy to bring this multipath topology concept into the multicast domain as well. So, I mean, yeah, again, we are working very hard to implement this. Multiple vendors are implementing this. We are definitely going to start asking for some TLV assignment in the next IETF pretty soon to make sure that, we can bring up these concepts between multiple vendors. And as I mentioned before, comments, questions are more than welcome, and this is the time. Thank you. Any comment, questions?
Any questions? Can you go back to the slide
sure,
where we were talking about the TLVs? I was just checking your document as well.
Yeah.
Are we saying that even the format of the TLVs have to change? Or the format is the same? Instead of current description of those TLV says it stores the SR policy name. It doesn't say unicast, it doesn't say multicast, it doesn't say anything. The description is it's currently stores the SR policy name. And I think you are using the same TLV with the same format, just it will store the P2MP SR policy name. Is that correct?
So exactly. So I mean, 1, 3, 4 are going to be identical
Yeah.
from what I remember. I mean, don't quote me. It's been a couple of weeks. I think number 2 is the one that for the candidate path identifier, we need to use the root ID. So number 2 is the one that is going to be some changes in the TLV.
I think if there are changes in the TLV, I don't think you should be reusing the same type. Let's discuss offline and
Sure.
let's resolve this. One question I also had when I was reading this was if PC is always allocating the instance ID, does it have any impact on stateless model? Like so far, what we used to do is, of course, our focus here is sort of on the stateful side. That's what you guys are all implementing as well. But does it have any impact on stateless? Can I still ever uh, start from a PCC, request for paths to be computed at PCE, and return some things back, not in a pure stateful model?
Yeah, so the draft, when it comes to the I am running out of words here. The part that actually says the messages, I don't know what you call that part of the draft, that actually says, here's a message, first message you need to send, here's a second message. It actually has
Just 1 second. Is the door locked by any chance? Can somebody check? I'm getting a message that door's locked and people can't get in.
Oh no, I start panicking.
Yay. Go ahead. Sorry.
I would be more worried people want to get out than, get in. Multicast usually puts people in the sleep. But anyway, so yeah, we actually specifically, the main use case for this is for the PCC to initiate the tree seed, the point to multi-point path. So yeah, we have ensured that actually this works with the PCC initiated concept as well.
Yeah, I was more thinking of pure stateful, but I think most likely it will be out of scope, and maybe we just need to write that in the document.
Okay.
But Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in. I think you guys were talking past each other. So in terms of stateless, because of the replication segments have to be delegated down to the tree after computation, that effectively makes it a stateful solution.
Okay.
And so having a stateless on the route doesn't really have much value because you still need to have stateful in the forwarding plane on the transit.
Got it.
But like Human mentioned, is that it's PCC and NIT driven, but it's still a stateful. So there always has to be delegations, essentially.
Yeah, understood. That part makes it clear for me. Also, 6 authors. Since you added 2 authors, maybe this is at the same time where you're adding authors, please look at the limit. We have 5 authors limit. Let's respect that.
That's understood.
Thank you.
Again, lots of people are contributing to this, so it is a tough call. But yeah, we understand.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for presenting. Next is circuit style. Samuel.
Hi all, I'm Samuel Sider from Cisco. I'll be presenting draft about PSEP extension for circuit style policies on the House of Authors. It was presented already in the past, so I'll just describe the motivation shortly and some PSEP extensions introduced and changes which happened since last presentation. So this draft is extending PSEP to satisfy requirements of connection-oriented transport services using segment routing policies, also called circuit style SR policies. There is also another draft in Spring Working Group, which is describing overall concept of CS policies, so I will not go into details. This draft is extending PSEP to be able to encode information about desired end-to-end path persistency, so PCC can specify in PC report when PC is allowed to recompute the path or whether the path computation should be blocked completely. The second part of the draft is introducing the way to specify whether a strict path is required or loose path is acceptable as well. Even I mentioned that extensions were introduced to support CS policies or CSSR policies, but extensions are done or are applicable in general to other setup types as well and other use cases. So the draft introduced new TLV in LSP object for restricting path recomputation behavior on PC to achieve the path persistency. In the TLV, we have 2 flags to adjust the behavior. So, for example, whether operators allowed to explicitly trigger the path computation on PC, or whether the path computation is blocked completely, and basically no path updates are expected from PC. Second part of the draft is clarifying existing O flag in RP object for segment routing in stateless messages. and it was originally defined only for RSVPT, and it is the draft is introducing similar flag for stateful in LSP extended flag TLV of the LSP object. The last part are two capabilities which were introduced in stateful PCE capability TLV to advertise support for these two extensions. So now the actual changes which happened since last presentation or or the IETF 116. The draft was adopted by working group. Capabilities in stateful PCE capability TLV were added. Some details were done for the processing of the pattern computation TLV, which is introduced in this draft. So, for example, if multiple instances of the TLV are included in the message, what should happen, and things like that. Then the manageability and security sections were added, and some minor comments were addressed as well. And the last part, the earlier code point allocation was done, and the draft was updated with those. So now all the interrupt tests are possible. So thanks for listening. Any comments, any questions are welcome. If you are aware about any existing implementation of extensions introducing this draft, please let me know and I can tag it in the draft. And in case of any changes and anything else or any use cases which you can think of where this draft can be used, please let me know and I can document them as well. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Samuel, for making very quick updates and handling all the comments. So thank you. Any comments from the room on the latest set of changes? No comments. So let's move to the next presentation. Thank you, Samuel.
Thank you.
Just 1 second. Let me share the slides. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Chuan Sheng from ZTE. This topic is about the PCEP extension for the SLAT banded latency. This is the updates from the last versions. This was presented at 114 and 116. And thanks for the comments from the meeting and the mailing list. And the main updates from the version 0 is mainly about we have aligned the terminologies with the enhancement requirements in with the DataLat working group. For example, the deterministic latency information. And the second, we have aligned the requirements in control plane in DataLat working group. And we have added the clarification for the PCEP to gather the banded latency capabilities by the underlying IGP extensions. For example, the ISS and the ISIS and the OSPF. And finally, we changed the extensions from deterministic path object to deterministic path ERO sub-object as do suggested. So let's quick recap the PCEP extensions. The first part is we have proposed the two metric object of, for example, the end-to-end banded latency metric and the end-to-end banded latency jitter, latency variation, the digital metric. And we proposed the D flag for to indicate the PCC to request the PC to compute the deterministic path. And we also, the second part of the PCEP extensions, mainly the deterministic path ER sub object. We proposed the new object to indicator, the deterministic path ERO called DPERO, and we have proposed DLA type to associated with the DLA information. For example, that letter queuing based information. This information will be aligned with the letter queuing metadata. For example, we have proposed deterministic latency information such as the deadline cycle and the tense node queuing based information. This part of extensions will be updated based on the data letter updates. So this is all the updates from last version. So this we need to get some feedback, and we would like to ask her how to proceed, if we should wait for the data letter updates, or can we ask her for adoption. Thanks.
As far as I realized, that the document that you are referencing in DetNet is already a working group document.
Yeah, the requirement is already working.
Yeah, so I think I'll discuss this with Julian, and maybe we'll write an email to the DetNet chair and get their opinion, and then we can definitely add it into our queue.
Okay, thank you.
I still have some questions, especially related to the metric type.
Yeah.
So we already have a normal latency metric and jitter metric.
Yeah.
I was just wondering that how would they interact with the existing metric type object, because can that be included as well as have a bounded latency metric?
Yeah.
And what will be their interaction?
I have searched the word metrics, and for example, the RFC 8233, they propose the path delay and path delay variation. But the computation over the path delay is just the summary over the links delay. And the banded latency delay is the summary over the links delay plus the node delay, for example, the queuing delay. So
Yeah.
I think it is different.
Yeah, I agree that they are different. I was just saying maybe we should also add some text that if both are included, how would the computation in would DetNet say I will simply ignore
Yeah,
the other
I
metric
have,
type, or would I consider both of them? So some text related to that would be
yeah.
useful.
Yeah, that's there has some text to explain how to compute the banded latency in the draft
Yeah,
existing.
yeah, thanks for doing that. The second one, even with respect to ERO, my question, which first came to my mind, is: are you have three types: deadline, cycle, and time slot? Are they used together usually? Is only one of them used at one time? What is the usual way in which you expect the path to come with these properties?
Only one in one time, and this is similar with the NAI in SRERO. Yeah.
Okay.
The type to indicator, one of them.
Yeah, then it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you. So maybe you can add that description a little bit better in the document, so that once a reader reads, he understand why you designed it this way.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from anyone? Otherwise, there's an action item for us on chairs that we will reach out to DetNet and try to decide what's the next step.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, so that brings us to the last presentation.
Hello everyone, this is Luis Contreras from Telefónica. I will present this draft on path computation based on precision availability metrics. So the motivation for this effort is basically the fact that some communication services will require to take into consideration service level objectives. So So, basically, metrics or delay metrics or jitter or so, which somehow has a kind of a statistical distribution. This could be the case of the network slices with the services defined in the recently released RFC 9543, or even the deterministic services as we have just seen. Also could be a matter of having the metrics described in terms of SLOs. The EPPM working group is defining the performance availability metrics for defining and monitoring the SLOs. So somehow here the idea would be to take into account such as performance availability metrics and extend the PCE in order to consider them for the calculation and the selection of the path. So the PCE nowadays compute or select the path based on metrics. That's clear. These metrics could be bound, or could be somehow we can consider a maximum of the value of the metric in such a way that the path that is selected or is computed could have less or equal than such a metric. But the point is that the selection of the path is based on the observed metric at that point on time. But in some cases could be of interest to have into account the behavior of the path along the time. So in such a way that we can ensure that the path in regards to that metric follows the statistical distribution that is expected for the service. So it's not only a punctual or a specific moment on time that metric is satisfied, but it's done along the time. So here in the next slide, you can see a kind of a representation, statistical representation of a metric. Let's consider latency in this case. So we could have the representation of the metric in terms of histogram or a community distribution function or whatever other statistical distribution that could be meaningful. So in this case, for instance, we represent a latency along the time. And here we can observe that 25% of the samples of the metric, for instance, along the time is less than 512 microseconds. Almost 47% of the time should be around less than 1 millisecond, and so on and so far. So we could consider that, and this is a matter of what IPPM is being specifying, the violation intervals of this kind of distribution. So how long the samples that we collect in terms of the metrics exceed the expected behavior, right? So that would declare or would define the violation intervals in case of the different intervals, different tires defined, or if we go to the, let's say, maximum bound of the metric, we will have then a kind of severe violation interval. So this is a reference to the definitions in IPPM. So they define the violated interval as the time interval during which at least one of the performance parameters present degradation respect to the predefined optimal level threshold. So violated interval is for the predefined ones, the optimal ones. That would be the blue columns here in the graph. And similarly, we have the severe violated interval, that is the when, let's say, the degradation is respect to the critical value, as we saw previously in the graph. So with these definitions, also IPPM defined the violated interval ratio. That would be the ratio of such as violations, either let's say normal violations, let's say, or severe violations. So taking all of this into account, our proposition here is to define a new metric object that we call precision metric object, and basically allowing the definition of that metric in a statistical manner. So in this case, we could have like two options that are the ones that the IPPM is presented in the draft. One would be essentially a kind of optimal threshold plus complemented by a critical threshold. That would be the option that you can see up on your right, or a description of the metric with several tires, so with something similar to the histogram that I shown before. So this is a new proposal with respect to the version 0 and version 01 that we released initially, where we were proposing to have an extension of the metric object, but we think that this approach is much cleaner than the previous approach, and probably having other benefits like backward backward compatibility and basically a cleaner encoder. encoding. So we, as consequence of the comments received for the previous versions, we have also added some examples to the draft. Here we took directly an example that is provided by the draft in IPPM that consider a path delay metric statistically defined in the form that you can see there, that basically the samples not exceed 30 milliseconds for any packet, and the same for the same latency to not exceed 25 milliseconds for 99.999 sorry percent of the packets, and similarly for the subsequent threshold 20 milliseconds for 99% of the packets. So assuming that we are let's say calculating the path for a service that where the violation interval ratio should be 5% and the severe violation ratio should be 0.2%. So that would be somehow the exercising of the encoding as we have presented in the slide before, considering that the time interval is 1 hour. So this is just an example for illustration purposes. So next steps. Apart from collective feedback from the working group, for sure, we will continue with the analysis of potential impacts on the routing backups now form grammar that was point raised by Drew in the mailing list. So yeah, we need to explore that and come back with some impact analysis. That's clear. And then also we would like to clarify what could be the better approach according to the view of the working group, if extending the metric object or going through this new precision metric object. We added a backup slide with the previous encoding just for reference, so you can check for sure and comment. And yeah, our idea is to keep working for sure for the grammar and so, and prepare a new version for next IETF. And that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thanks.
Chuan from ZTE. I have two concerns. First one is you proposed the 10 unit. As we mentioned just now, the RC8233 day metric used the microseconds coded with the 32 bits. So I think this is the minimum units of the time units. So if this is required to define other types over the time units, for example, the day, year, the microsecond, or millisecond, such as this time units. And another concern is how to use this metric together with the existing metric, for example, the path delay and I proposed the band latency metric.
Yeah.
So this
Yes.
is the two concerns. Thanks.
Thank you for the questions, for the comments, sorry. So regarding the first point about the granularity of the timing, if I got properly, so I think that in the draft we are proposing several degrees of granularity. So I need to check what you have said, but I think that we covered that front. Regarding how this could work in parallel with the other metrics, not all the metrics could be expressed in terms of precision availability metrics. Could be, for instance, the case that the delay is expressed in this way, but maybe the hop count is expressed in another way or so, or the jitter or whatever. So this will depend on the nature of the service and what the service demand. Well, how the service express the SLAs or the SLOs. Probably some of them could go in the form of precision availability metrics, maybe others not. So for those that would go in with the format of the precision availability metric, then we can use this, and for the others we can use the other metrics. And regarding that could apply probably also as well with your proposal. I need to recheck that because I'm not familiar, or not very much familiar with that. But depending on the kind of metric, probably can coexist. So, because the metric will be expressed, every metric will be expressed just in one format. So some of them could go in the format of precision availability metric, and the others go in the other format. Will depend on the service, I guess.
Okay, thanks. Maybe we can discuss in the mailing list. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you.
A general comment which I sort of made earlier also was when metric type is being introduced for detnet cases or for this, if we try to keep it in the same format, it's good for the protocol extensions. Like we don't want detnet to extend via, and they are doing with a metric type. And that was my thinking
Yeah.
basically. Like if we are coming with new metrics, we should not have like one goes with a new metric type object, other one uses a metric type. So if there is a need for a new object, maybe the decision should be across working groups. So do discuss with each other and come up with maybe an alignment within all the extensions that we do in PSEP.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
That's
uh,
reasonable.
one more comment that I had was thanks for adding the example, but also I was thinking, what's the applicability within PSEP scenarios becomes important. Like for instance, I was thinking, is this most useful when I have delegated and when I can continue to monitor over time so that I have this histogram that you were point, but if it is a stateless, I've forgotten everything. So I don't have this. So we need to have applicability as well as error cases. Don't use this metric in these scenarios. It should only be applicable in this limited set. That could be useful to add in the document as well.
Okay, got it. I will work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the room? Thank you.
Thank you.
This was the last presentation. Any parting thoughts from anyone? Otherwise, you get your 20 minutes back. Enjoy. Julian, last words?
Thank you everyone for attending and enjoy the place.
Yes, see you in Vancouver.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Andrew, for comments and everybody who helped with note taking.